It's gonna be on this other front slide out right here. But if we look up the top, there's a very hefty gap I can put my finger in. I'm able to get a probe or screwdriver in between the arm itself, which is right there, and what the arm's supposed to be riding on. Hopefully you can see I can, just with my hand right there, move all the basements. Take the dinette benches out, the table out. Like I said, I think I'll probably take the refrigerator out. But I think I have everything undone. I have the refrigerator pulled out. The last thing I have to do is disconnect the slide from the arms down below. But this forklift has side shift, so we'll pull this way out and we'll slide it on that one. I will need to go get some help though. Alright, yeah, go ahead and push it in. Alright, I'm gonna do this one. Okay. Yep.
That was a lot sloppy.
That was a lot easier, huh? Okay, now the scary part. The first thing we're gonna do, Mike, is kind of slide this out, right? We're not trying to do the side shift with this. Alright guys, I made an executive decision. Check it out. I decided I probably don't need to set this thing on the ground. I can do it all up with it up in the air. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, maybe it's a little sketchy, but I do have a redundancy right here. So I have these straps that are keeping the slide out from tipping over because it's a little off center. Then I did put some supports with my 2x6 header that we built in a video before. So I do have these slide out room jacks actually supporting the weight too, as forklifts are prone to leak down over time. Not that that one's leaking. So this is the slide out room right here. This is the carpet that was underneath the slide. So I do have it pulled out a good solid 2 or 3 feet. But this is the carpet that he couldn't get underneath. But I think what was happening, because this whole thing was bunched up way back in there. I thought he actually stuffed some insulation under there. But especially back here where we were having an issue, this carpet was bunched up and it's been riding really hard right there. And that's pretty thick. And I think that's been enough to actually lift this up. So I think if I just get rid of all of this carpet that was actually causing the problem, that might eliminate the problem we were having, and we can utilize the same guides that he already made. Let's take a look underneath. All right, so if we get precariously underneath, what can we see? You can see the guides that he made. These carpeted guides. Now Winnebago doesn't do anything too much different from that when it's what was running on tile or vinyl flooring. But if it was on carpet, they have these blocks, or those nylon guides right there. And so I'll take those off. Well, I don't know. One thing I did notice, the front arm pulls in and out really easily. But this rear one definitely does bind up. Wonder why that is. So I think what I'm going to do, there's no real reason to show you me put flooring down because it's just going to be interlocking flooring like any other thing. I'll rip out all this. I'm going to rip out underneath right here. There's this guide support. I'm going to rip that out too because that won't need to be there. I'll put new flooring down. I'll rip these ramps out right here because those won't be necessary. And then I think the guides that he does have will be perfect for what we have. I think will be golden. Shouldn't need, I don't think it needs anything else. I'm gonna risk it rather than trying to re-engineer it. I definitely already did tell him that there's no way I can guarantee that the slide's not gonna gouge up the floor. In fact, I already know there's gouges on the floor. And he agreed that he understands that. But I'm guessing it won't take too long to get this part situated and then put the slide out room back in. So let me just focus on that and then we'll put the floor down and hopefully get the slide room back in. Winnebago is like most manufacturers. They put the flooring down before they put any of the interior stuff together. So it's hard to get this carpet off because it's underneath the slide out. So most people just do something weird like this because taking out a slide out is a lot of work. We'll get this off. Without carpet, that's no longer necessary. Alright, with the vacuum, I'll pull out pieces to the next non-cut place so I have a tongue to put it back into. Do the same thing over here. I'll have to move the refrigerator, I'll have to move the dinette that's in the hallway. And then I can start building. I don't know, this might be a little bit strange. We'll see how this goes. If there's any good news putting this stuff down, it is interlocking so it comes apart pretty well. It is floating. If there's any bad news, he didn't leave me any vapor barrier. Not sure how vital it is, but I won't have a right height of everything, so I have to go pick up some vapor barrier real fast. But he did have a lot of extra flooring, so that's the good news. Let me go get some vapor barrier. Alright, well this is the closest stuff I could come up with. It's got a little bit of a metallic sheen to it, so I guess a little bit more of a heat barrier, I don't know. Alright, well I'm starting to put the floor down. This interlocks pretty well. So we can just go ahead and get it underneath there, right like that. Make sure we're lined up all the way around. It's definitely difficult to do with one hand. Okay, just like that. Only downside is that I'm gonna have to continue all the way to the front underneath the driver's seat. But I'm trying to make my life easy. I'll start there, start working this way. Alright, well there you go. It's been pieced in. Still have a little bit to do under the dash right there. That was a kind of a pain, and I can do the little fill-ins down there after the slide-out room's in. I prefer to leave the slide-out room dangling in space as little as possible. So the next step is to put the slide-out room back in. Let me update you where we were at. Alright, this is a 4x8 sheet of what I would call nylon. Right, I ripped off a strip of this because I don't know if it's vital or not. I made a guide, which is the plastic right here. You guys can see that or not. Right here. Because if you remember correctly, there was this ramp right here. Now originally the carpet would have been on there, and so the slide would have been rubbing on this going in and out, and they made a ramp so that it didn't have a hard edge as it was going in and out. So I made this, and then I made a few shims underneath instead of paneling to raise it up to the same thickness as that ramp before. Because even though those arms are robust to carry the weight of the slide in and out, the middle of the slide might sag a little bit. So I'm thinking I need to put that back in. The problem is I really don't know if it's necessary, and I won't be able to take it out without taking the slide out again, or I won't be able to make adjustments. I'm gonna go with this. From that point, I don't know if you can see where it dips out, down to this point, all I have to do now is drill some holes, recess some taper-headed screws down in there, wood screws. The added benefit is that it will secure this edge of the flooring so it won't be loose and flopping about. Normally you don't have to do that on a floating floor like this, because I don't even know what this is. Premium engineered vinyl flooring, smart core. Guys, look underneath here, you can kind of see what we're looking at. There's the guide, there's the shims. Now this carpeted guide the owner put on, I'm gonna leave it because that's what should act as floor support as the slide goes in and out, because this is obviously gonna be sat on the dinette. Like I said, it will gouge. I don't know if you can see the gouges in there, so it's gonna be really important that you sweep the floor each time you operate this slide out. But I'm not the engineer that designed this slide out, and the engineers called for that guide underneath the slide before, so I'm gonna hope that this is proactive enough. Alright, so I just drilled a 3/16 hole through all that because we don't want the screw to grab that. Then I need to recess countersink bit. There's an oversized one, so that the screw I'm using. Alright, through trial and error, we're using number 8 screws, 1.5 long. These are taper headed. Let's see if you can focus. There you go. So that went right through there. So the top of the slide won't grab that screw, which is why we countersunk it. So I'll add a whole bunch more screws and then we'll put the slide back in. Okay, so I do have those in. I have to clean up my mess, but that should do a pretty good job of creating some sort of a wear bar or supporting the slide out room floor from bowing a little bit. That's my hope. Alright, with that cleaned up, now I just have to slide the room back in, hook it back up, and we'll test this thing out. And yes, these are strapped around the roof just to keep it from tipping out. That's just a backup. You know, as I'm putting this in, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you how much easier it is to do the slide out seals right now with no slide out box in it. If you're going to do a slide out seal replacement and you have to pull the slide out, that's the time to do it. It's so much easier. And this is the old style Winnebago one that actually pushes on with a crimp ring. I have decided I'm going to take these guides off from Winnebago because they're kind of redundant with the carpeted guides anyways. And I can't guarantee they won't interact with the guide I just put down. So give you a good opportunity to see what I'm talking about. It's more like a molding insert on the outside of a RV. That Teflon just fits in there. This is what normally is floating on the carpet. So I just have to take those screws out and this entire bar will come down. And there you go. That's what it looks like. Let me get the last one out, which is right there. All right, I do have the room back in. It's pretty much centered where I need it to be. Let's go back outside. Okay, so I have the room sitting back on its arms again. I'm gonna just try to straighten it out where it needs to be, put the bolts through. Then I'll extend this cylinders back out again and connect those back to the arms. That way I can drag it back in, man, using the hydraulic cylinders themselves. Now, I didn't necessarily have to disconnect the cylinders from the arms, but because I'm doing the hydraulic repair in the bedroom slide, I didn't want to be stuck dead in the water halfway with those cylinders. Also, I'd like to be able to pull those arms in and out manually and not have to do it with the hydraulic pump each time. But I've done it both ways. All right, so I have the slide back standing on its own. I need to push it in, put those cylinders back up. But so far, we're not looking too bad. All right, so I've already extended the cylinders out and they lined up perfectly and just poked all the way through the hole. Now I just put the nuts on. Okay, here we go. A lot of work. Let's go look outside. Well, gotta say that's pretty disappointing. There's a little bit of a gap up there still. We did make some progress because if I come down here, this arm is actually sitting on the nylon block now. But if we go inside, I think what we were gonna find is that first thing I didn't show you guys was I did remove this block from right here. Now before, if I were to try to pull the slide down, I don't know if you guys can see the sunlight right there. When I pull it, it does make it's right there. It does close up the top. I didn't have that, I couldn't do that before. Something was physically keeping this slide out, or this edge of the slide out from actually dipping down. But if I look underneath at this other carpeted guide, down here, you guys can see, I can put my finger underneath the guide right there. But if I come down right here, I am hitting pretty hard. So I think this is actually kicking that edge out. So I feel like it's my greatest fear is that I have to pull the slide out again and readjust this carpet bar and maybe make it not quite so thick.
guess.
All right, when you forget to push play or record. Well, about the same. Just to get that hydraulic issues.